All right. I think we're on. I think we are on. Welcome, guys. Welcome to another Saturday Beard Live with the 3-year beard. Justin. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a great Saturday, a great weekend. It was supposed to be pretty hot today, but it's not too hot. I ended up doing some yard work last night after I got off work, and it's always good to do yard work during the summer in Las Vegas, especially when the sun goes down. And most importantly, when the sun goes down, that's a little bit more manageable, dealing with triple digit degree weather. So it's fun. Got that done. I got that out of the way. So just thought I'd start early today to talk about beards for another Saturday Beard Live. I hope this light behind me, or behind the camera, is not showing too much flicker. For some reason, I think I need to get another power strip for some reason. This power strip in particular has a USB port, so this light behind the camera is a USB port, injectable instead of the two-prong, regular traditional port outlet. So yeah, that's hopefully not showing up, but if it is, yep, it probably is. Nothing I can do about that, I guess. I'm gonna have to get some other, like a new power strip. But yeah, thank goodness for today, because it is a time to talk about beards. And I'm in technically the 8th month, starting today, 8 months growing this 3-year beard. And I can't be any happier. I'm using a bunch of great products, great beard products. One in particular is Weather Beard. Weather Beard is an awesome beard product. It has a 100% natural oils and materials and ingredients specifically made for your beard. There's a bit of science behind this owner. It's a family-owned company, but Weather Beard Supply Company is a great beard product. Right now I'm using the Amber Trail beard oil. So essentially, when you have a beard, you essentially want to wash your beard with a good beard wash. Weather Beard has that. And then after it's nice and rinsed, you pat dry it, or you can air dry it. I would depend, I personally do the pat drying. So, and then after the drying of your beard, relatively, a little bit wet and dry at the same time, you put in your beard oil, and then you put it on the palm of your hand, and then you dab it with your fingertips. Get your fingertips nice and oiled up, lubed up, as they say, and then run it through your fingers to the skin to hydrate that skin, so you can optimize those follicles that are not going to get clogged. It's going to be, a well hydrating system for your beard to thrive and grow efficiently. So, and then after that, because my beard in particularly has a sort of a Brillo pad feel. It's nice and soft right now. It's because I've been putting some beard butter along after the beard oil. And beard butter is basically a nice little, almost like a palm made, or like another lotiony, harder lotion consistency. And then you just run it through your fingers, and that's just mostly just to soften the hairs, especially keep your beard nice and hydrated. Sorry, I keep hitting the Lavelle mic. I don't know if that's registering, but I am sorry for that. I will try better next time. But yeah, I've been using beard butter alongside with the other ingredients of Weather Beard. There's a really nice survival kit. It's like basically a beard oil kit. All the different smells and profile scents that you can explore, relatively cheap. And actually, depending on, if you've ever tried to get some beard oil samples, this is actually the best one, because their bottles are relatively reusable at least 3 times. So you usually, like with other beard companies, like this other one that I like using, Live Bearded. Live Bearded is also another company that I'm using. I like their conditioners. Their conditioners are great by softening my beard as well as I wash my beard. And it also has good beard butters. And pretty soon I'm going to be trying out this leave-in conditioner that Live Bearded has. So that's going to be good because usually late at night as I go to sleep and I wake up and my beard is already feeling dry, I want to get my beard nice and soft and pliable so I can actually, keep it styled, keep it nice and together and form fitted. I think that's the secret to keep your beard nice and conditioned, as Pavlov would be conditioning everything around him. Another bearded legend shout out. So let's go into the bearded legend of this week. Today's bearded legend is Jim Henson. Jim Henson, of course, is a man that without going, it's a man that like everybody knows, a man that is recognized not only because of his beard but because of his art form in puppetry. This legendary American puppeteer, artist, filmmaker, and screenwriter who created the Muppets and revolutionized children's television, best known as the creative force behind iconic characters like Kermit the Frog and Ernie. Hello, Kermit the Frog here. That's the best impression of Kermit that I can do right now. And Ernie is kind of similar to Kermit, so I won't do Ernie. I can't, like, one of the voices that I like doing impressions, by the way, but one of the voices that I can't do is Bert. And Bert is voiced that other character from Bert and Ernie in Sesame Street. Just for some reason I can't do his voice, but I can always try as a vocal actor, which I like to almost pronounce myself as a unprofessional voice actor, but I like to be professional about it. So who knows? Maybe other people who've seen my vocal work might see me as a professional voice actor, but that's also my dream. Not only to be a professional voice actor, but to be a legendary puppeteer like Jim Henson. Well, going back to Jim Henson, he co-developed Sesame Street and created The Muppet Show, transforming puppetry into a beloved art form for both children and adults globally. Let's get into some of his key career highlights, including The Muppets. He invented the term Muppet. The name Muppet was completely invented by Jim Henson by blending marionette and puppet using soft materials to allow expressive facial movements. And he also, in 1969, invented and came up with a Sesame Street, which was partnering with Children's Television Workshop to inject humor, music, and heart into early childhood education. Now, when I was growing up, I loved the Muppets. I loved watching Sesame Street because I thought it was so interesting to see these puppets, come to life in almost like a blend or hybrid world of human and puppet. So, I mean, again, Jim Henson is kind of really close to my heart because he is a huge influence in what I do in my life in terms of career aspirations. I'm a puppeteer myself, and I never was a puppeteer until I started becoming more of a puppeteer, all because of Jim Henson and watching his early shows, his rise to movies, his contributions to all the children's shows that I was watching when I was a child. So yeah, this guy is just completely almost a huge influence in what I am today. So going back to more about his career highlights, The Muppet Show, which was from 1976 to 1981, produced a widely successful primetime variety series that reached over 235 million viewers worldwide. That is awesome. That's great. He's also a fantasy filmmaker by directing groundbreaking animatronic and puppet-based feature films, including The Dark Crystal, 1982, by the way, and The Labyrinth. Both movies I loved watching as a kid. It was just like completely an immersion of art form and darkness and just like almost like a different world compared to shows like Sesame Street or even The Muppets. This was just like almost like a real world feel of puppetry, and it was just so impactful in my life, because I didn't want to just go to just the cartoony stuff. I wanted to just explore the realism that could be behind these types of art forms like puppets. So yeah, I loved. If you guys haven't watched Dark Crystal, I suggest you watch it. There's also a Dark Crystal Netflix series. Both I hear are really good. I've watched the original movie, and it's just like a great movie. I love it. It's kind of a very dark, interesting movie. Um, Now it's a little rough around the edges, but the message is still clear. Um, and Labyrinth, timeless movie. Timeless movie. David Bowie, you remind me of the Babe. What babe? Babe of the power. What power? Power of voodoo. Who do you do? Remind me of the Babe. I saw my baby crying hard as babe could cry. What could I do? My baby's love had gone and left my baby blue. Nobody knew what kind of magic spell to use. Sliding snails or puppy dog's tails, thunder or lightning. And baby said, dance, magic dance. Great movie. I love it. I can go on and on because I've pretty much watched that movie like religiously. I watch it all the time. It's a great movie. Labyrinth, great movie. Check it out, 1986. And last but not least, Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock, again, became a iconic staple to the Jim Henson Muppet Studio. Like, it is continuing to be made today. There's a new version out, I think recently came out last year. They transcribed it into an animation cartoon, which I watched the cartoon a little bit more than I watched the original 1983 Fraggle Rock, because I was born in 1984. 1983 versus 1984, I was already past that year, but I revisited back and watched the original, and it was really great. It was good. And including like some of the other earlier short-formed versions of puppet productions that he did, which was Dog City. Dog City was a great, 15-minute, storyteller of like this detective named, what was his name? His name was, oh geez, why can't I remember it? It's a play on word, but Ace U. Yeah, it was a Ace. Detective Ace U. Who? You. Who do? You do. Something along the lines, but it was great. And also the beginning song, Dog City, everybody wants to know. Dog City, everybody in the know. With every low down so and so. Anyways, yeah. I recently watched that like a year ago, and I was like, oh my god, I remember this. It still holds up to this day. It's funny. All like great one-liners. But yeah, like his influence in puppetry was so great that like other people like Frank Oz, who also voiced the I should have like went into the other pictures, but I got so into Jim Henson that I just did not realize that I also had to man this OBS. Man, but this is what he looks like without a beard, with his young years when he was doing that one show. I think it was called something in Friends. Let me look it up. Instead of the Jim Henson old show. Sam and Friends. Yeah. This was the Sam and Friends, where it was a very crude version of Kermit back in the day. And I think it was like a 1955 to 1961. And in fact, Jim, started in commercial television. He worked in like, a studio, TV programming, and then he finally got into it by, working with his wife at the time to do this puppet show and stuff. So he was a very big influence in how puppetry started to become more television instead of just stage performances. Here he is with all the characters that he created. Some of them aren't, voiced by him, like Fozzie. Fozzie is voiced by Frank Oz. Miss Piggy, Jim Henson invented the look of Miss Piggy, but Frank Oz also did the voice and puppetry as well. A few other ones, I think Animal wasn't, he didn't do Animal. He didn't do the two critics. He didn't do Bert and Ernie. He didn't do Gonzo. But like he invented the look of all these characters, of what you see in Jim Henson, Muppets today. So big influence. And here he is with the movie that he was in. Um, he was also, what was it called? I think it was called the Muppet Movie. He also has a great new um, documentary on him, on Jim Henson, called The Idea Man. Came out in 2024. It was great. I watched it. I loved it. If you guys want to know more about Jim Henson, please check out The Idea Man. It really breaks down in his early career to his, late career, and how many people and how many Muppeteers he influenced by not only. By the way, this is the bearded legend of the week. I'm only talking about it personally because this guy personally, without even realizing that he had a beard, which I always knew, except when he was young. When he was young, you could argue, was he that great when he wasn't with a beard? I mean, in this shot, this is iconic. This is the biggest. I think it was called the Muppet Movie, but yeah. So anywho, he was so popular that he ended up becoming a staple of his puppetry, and this is him as a puppet form, as a Muppet, I would say. This is him as his own Muppet, and of course he got a beard and everything. Man, look at that. He was also a very nice, guy. He was a very nice guy, and unfortunately in what was it? It was 1990, and sometime in March, he unexpectedly passed away. Oh, I'm sorry, May 16th, 1990, passed away unexpectedly at 53 due to an organ failure from bacterial pneumonia, which was very tragic. It was. I watched it because I think I was like 5 years old, or no, I think I was 6. I was 6 years old, and I remember seeing the eulogy on television, and Big Bird comes out singing, it's not easy being green, and it was very heartbreaking because I really feel like Jim Henson was that type of person that felt like that he was running out of time. He didn't have enough time in the world, but he wanted to use all that time to get all of his projects, to all of his ideas, to get everything that he was doing, in terms of what he was trying to work towards as a puppeteer, and as a creator, and as a director, and as his basic exploration of his art. So it was very tragic to see that, but again, the reason why I puppeteer is because I loved watching his shows with green screen. And if you guys might know, I have a somewhat popular puppet channel called Mad Puppets. That's me. That's if you ever heard Mad Puppets, that's me. I'm the creator, I'm the puppeteer, I'm the editor. I pretty much do everything. And I wouldn't have been able to be influenced as much as I do with the amount of puppetry that I do now if Jim Henson wasn't there. Because he was the guy that showed me, oh, you can do stuff with green screen. Really? That's interesting. Well, it's affordable to get a green screen and get some lights, and now you could just film everything off of your phone in 4K. Why? It's perfectly set up. I started out with a little camcorder. A lot of my videos were done on this Sony Handycam, and I have no use for it anymore. I'm going to try to sell it, but yeah, Jim Henson, not only was he inexplicably, known for growing his beard, but he was just, notoriously influencing how I make puppet videos. And he not only was, catering to childlike, content, but he was also catering to adult humor too. So Mad Puppets is kind of like, a spectrum of who can appreciate these videos. It's not too raunchy, but it's enough adult friendly to get people and everyone, laughing. And that's what I gathered that type of information from Jim Henson, because I knew he was just such a well-rounded puppeteer he was trying to explore not only puppets, but he was also exploring animation. He was also exploring CGI and digital puppetry and stuff. And he was always trying to bend the rules, bend the the constrictions of what puppetry was supposed to be, and that was basically stage. You put up a nice prop, you put up a few lights, and then it's just like a very simple backdrop that you could just put your arm up and go like, hey, how's it going? So this is one of my puppets. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Anyways, again, I'm not that great of a puppeteer. I don't think I am, but I think I've gotten a lot better because I've been following what Jim Henson was doing, including watching his movies, seeing how other puppeteers, have worked underneath this master puppeteer, and people get good because he sets a standard of how puppetry should be. So that's how I feel about, Jim Henson. Not only, of his unexpected passing, but his legacy moved on with his son, Brian Henson, who ended up coming out with like other great movies, great adult movies, including like, keeping the legacy of Jim Henson Studios alive and keep him running. In fact, he looks almost, spitting image to his father, Jim Henson, that it's no wonder why he was able to continue with his puppet art, even through his son's, aspirations to be a puppeteer and creator as well. And, again, like you see the transference of generational learning between a father and a son, which is, not only, near and dear to my heart because I'm a father, but it's great to see that like this lineage continues on without knowing that he had a great beard alongside with his great talent of transferring and showing people, the true art form or the expression of puppetry. So again, thank you, Jim Henson, for your wonderful, insightful, amazing content of creating these puppets that you stamped as your own brand as Muppets. So again, you're an inspiration to me and everyone around you. So thank you so much. You will always be remembered with your wonderful, wonderful contributions to art and puppets. So that's what it is. Oops. That's, again, Jim Henson was a great influence on me. So, I was more comfortable talking about this bearded legend this week. And because, again, I lived it. I watched a lot of his content. I watched pretty much almost all of his content, including, some of the earlier forms of Muppets Tonight. And, again, just like learning more about him and what was behind the Muppet. This guy was, just kind of like a man who was out for just to. He was a man that was so determined and so just ready to focus that it's no wonder why he would be a legend of his own without even having a beard. But it's awesome that he has a beard. So that makes him the Bearded Legend of the Week. So thank you guys for joining in. I really appreciate it. I know there's no one like, really talking in the chat, but I mean, that's not going to stop me from being here every Saturday talking about bearded legends, talking about beards, and my own beard journey in how this beard is going to be looking. I have another great surprise that is, for this month. I'm not going to spoil it. I just want to surprise you guys raw in it, coming in just almost like how like Nintendo used to like do some like phantom drops or whatever they used to call it, like just random drops. They would drop a teaser trailer to something. They didn't even announce it, pre-announce it. They just dropped it that day and you're like, oh my goodness, Nintendo came out with something. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop something unexpectedly to you guys. And you guys will not know when it is, but it's coming. Believe me, it's coming. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Have a great time just enjoying yourselves, and try to be like people like Jim Henson. Try to find an art, because everybody needs art, whether it's music, creativity, cooking, speaking, just the expression of every single type of art, painting, even like shadow puppets. Like it's all included, guys, and everyone has the ability to do some form of art. Like Jim Henson would say, and I don't know if he would actually say this because I can't quote anything right now, but I'm sure that he would encourage people to go out and try to find your art and try to become a better person, and, you know, just explore what your art is. Explore it and try to have fun. Try to connect with other people that have that same type of appreciation to that art form, because everyone does. That's the great thing about art. It's so vast and so many things that you could do with art that there's always going to be someone that's going to appreciate that art. Like beards. Beard is an art form, right? You're not just going to grow your beard and expect not to take care of it, so it's not going to look, nice and pleasant looking. That's what the art form of beards, of growing beards, is all about. So again, have a great weekend. I will see you next time. I'll see you tomorrow for another short, and next week and on Saturday I'll see you for another live. Until then, you guys have a great weekend, and as usual,